Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I'm joined today by my special guest, Dan, chairman of the board. Dan, how you doing this morning?
Yeah, very good. So, Mackenzie, thanks for having me on a very short notice. But yeah, glad to be here and happy to discuss some games.
And what are we doing here today, Dan?
So, we are going to discuss the DiceTower awards nominees for 2021. So yeah, this is quite an interesting topic. And I wanted to ask you, Mackenzie, because I'm not so sure myself on, do you know what the process is on how these games came to be nominated, and who and how are these games awarded the actual award itself?
So the DiceTower is a big conglomeration of a lot of different content creators. So it's not just that core DiceTower crew, but a lot of other contributors, which is awesome. You get a lot of different voices here. Now those voices will all come together and suggest games, and basically whoever has suggested the most gets on this ballot, and then those games will get played rigorously, and then a winner will be determined there in these next couple of months. So I think it's a cool process because people can put in games that may not have been there, or it may just be games that people have played a lot or have had exposure to. So it can be hit or miss. I would definitely reach out to the DiceTower itself for more clarification, but that's the interpretation that I'm getting after seeing the different videos and my understanding of the voting system and the process of nominations. But you know that these games are going to be some stand out in their categories. So they're all going to be winners if you're looking for something that fits that specific niche. Now, if you haven't met Dan, Dan is actually my co-host over at Cooperative Cardboard, and we're actually doing a video for that after this stream over on his channel. So make sure that you do go check out Dan's channel over at Chairman of the Board. I'll show his channel page here really quick. He features a lot of review content, top 10 lists, honestly, a lot of stuff that it's just so well done and it's so in depth. I love that his reviews are top down. It's the same style of review that I do, but I don't really do reviews that often. So if you're looking for something like that, very critical, but guiding you through the different gameplays, you need to check out Dan's channel. He's doing great on YouTube. My favorite videos recently from him are the top 10 board games that lived up to the hype. I just think that's great. That's a great title. And that's guaranteed amazing games because not only does Dan love them, but pretty much everybody else does too, which is awesome. And I was proud to see that there were a couple of games in the top there that were games that I was like, you got to get these played. So that was really cool to see that you really enjoyed those.
Yeah. You played a bit of a part in that one, Mackenzie. Yeah, a couple of those games. You were a big influence on me picking them up.
Good. I'm happy. I'm happy that you got to play some heavy hitters, and they're amazing. So once again, please go check out Dan's channel at Chairman of the Board. Does some incredible stuff, and go check out some of his top 10 lists and reviews. They're wonderful. And if you've got time after this stream, we're gonna take about a half-hour break, but at 10 o'clock Mountain Time, we're gonna start our Corporate Cardboard episode 19. So we've been doing this for about a year now, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Been a bit of a break, but good to get back into it. And yeah, we're making a bit of an event of it today with 2 back-to-back videos.
Whoop whoop. All right. So that brings us to this video. And we're going to go ahead and start off with looking at the different DiceTower awards. Now, the DiceTower awards are separated into a lot of different sections. So our first section here is for we're just going to start strong. We're going to go top to bottom on this list here. And we're going to start off with the Game of the Year nominees. So if you'd like to follow along, if you look in the links of the description of this video, you can find this page. You can follow along with us. And we're going to go from them category by category, starting with the Game of the Year nominees. Or do you want to save this one for last? What do you think?
I think we should save this to last.
Okay, so I'll skip this one for right now. And we'll go to Best Artwork. So here are the nominees for Best Artwork. I'll go through them quickly. So if you're just listening later, you can also just listen sort of podcast style. So here are our nominees: Ankh, Gods of Egypt, Bitoku, Canvas, Meadow, and Sleeping Gods. Now, out of these games, which have you played, Dan?
Out of these games, I have only played Meadow. I've not played any of the other ones.
That's funny because Meadow and Bitoku are the two that I have not played. But this is a category where it doesn't matter if you've played these games. You can judge this based purely on taking a gander at it. So out of these, what do you think? First initial impressions. Out of these choices, what would be Chairman's choice?
So out of these ones, I would probably lean towards something like Bitoku, I think. I do really like the visual look of Bitoku as an art, in its isolation, the art, but the artwork almost works against this game because in the actual in the actual physical board game, it looks quite busy. There's a lot going on, and maybe that's going to detract from the gameplay a bit. But the actual artwork in itself, considering this is the artwork category, I think I prefer this one. I think maybe Meadow has tried to really capitalize on that current thing at the moment, the hot kind of take on this nature theme. It's very big at the moment. Everything with a nature theme on it seems to be doing well, and this is another good example of that. Appealing to a big amount of people, young and old. Everyone likes nature. But I like that one as well. But yeah, I think if I had to choose one, I would choose Bitoku. How about you?
Gotcha. My choice would actually be Ankh. I think Adrian Smith's artwork is amazing, and I think it's done so well in Blood Rage. I think it's great in Rising Sun, and then here in Ankh especially. Ankh has a nice way of presenting its art as well, because mainly the art is on the big player boards, and so the pieces of art that you do see, you get to see quite a bit of it. Whereas in something like Blood Rage, it's constricted to tiny little cards, but in Ankh, it's nice and present, which I really enjoy. I did think about Sleeping Gods for a second, but I think Sleeping Gods it reminds me a lot of like the Miko's artwork, where his style just kind of feels the same over and over again. It's super nice. I love it, but it does feel very samey. There's nothing huge that stands out, but it is beautiful to look at. I think the presentation is more interesting than the actual art pieces themselves, but it is a very pleasant thing. And that's kind of my feelings towards Canvas as well. I do like the theme of Bitoku, but I'll be honest, the artwork doesn't really draw me in, and as you described, it reminds me a lot of Tang Garden, where it's going to get in the way of the gameplay.
Yeah,
If you
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I think that's a really good comment you made about Sleeping Gods. I got the exact same impression. A lot of people always say this game, or what's it called, Ryan Lockett's artwork is spectacular, and it is. It's a very nice style, but there's something about it that I don't personally love it. I just like the overall impression's better than all the pieces in isolation, if that makes sense. But and the Ankh one, I do generally like Adrian Smith's work. I think it's a good style. It's it's quite gritty, and it's action packed. I have not actually seen Ankh in person, so I've only actually ever seen the box cover. I don't actually know what everything looks like, so maybe that's stopped me selecting it myself.
Gotcha. I think that Simon did an amazing job taking the artwork and turning it into miniatures. Some of the characters, like from Osiris, he's got all these the mummies rising him up, and you can see the little details. It's so amazing. Like, you can tell that Adrian really took a long time on these characters, and then the sculptors did a great job translating it over. So that would be my choice out of these selections. But were there any games from last year that you think needed to be included on this list?
I actually cannot think of any that I'm sure there is some out there, but none spring to mind. I mean, I tend to like games that don't focus so much on the artwork and stuff. Just by default, really. I like drier stuff, and they don't really focus too much on artwork. But yeah, I can't think of any. And I know ones that did spring to mind were ones that would have been on those nominations. So, any obvious misses there? You think?
I think so, yes. My favorite board game artwork of all time missed this list. I did a video on my channel on my top 10 artworks from 2021, top 10 artists in general, and this one missed. It is Oath, Chronicles of Empire and Exile. I think this game is beautiful. I think this is the best of Kyle Ferrin's artwork. I love the different denizen cards that populate this world, and the artwork stands out. There's a whole website where you can just go and look at the different cards, and not only are you enjoying the pieces, the components, and just the graphic design and layout of everything, but each citizen, each denizen has some unique flavor. Each location, there's mystery, but also this closeness that you feel to each character. Oh, this is such a wonderful production, from the boards, the maps, the locations, the outcasts, the chancellors, and then the denizens. I think that Oath is magnificent. Is beautiful. I love this game. This should have been here. I'm surprised it hasn't. I think Oath missed a lot of categories, so I might talk about it later too.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, this game certainly has, or this artist has, a unique style. It looks different to everything else out there, which is, I think, a massive bonus and should be, applauded on that alone, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And if you are listening now or in the future, please let us know in the comments what your picks for these different categories are. This whole point of this video is to spark discussion, talk about some amazing games, and maybe mention some things that miss these lists. So that wraps up the best artwork. Let's move on to the next category. So our next category is best cooperative game. So best cooperative game, you have a lot of heavy hitters this year. We had some that were I guess, won the Spiel des Jahres on this one, with Paleo being one of our best cooperative game nominees. Let's go ahead and pull up the list here. Here we are. So we got Paleo, Adventures of Robin Hood, Sleeping Gods again, So Clover, and Unfathomable. Any of these you've played?
Yes, I have played So Clover, which I actually own, and I've played Robin Hood as well. I've not played the other three.
Gotcha. So I have played Sleeping Gods, Paleo, and So Clover out of this list. And out of these, I mean, I think there are some more heavy hitters here. You have a lot of innovation when it comes to Paleo and Robin Hood. Sleeping Gods, I think we'll see a lot of on all of these different nominations.
Yeah.
And then Unfathomable is a remake. I'm not sure how they're feeling about remakes in this category. This isn't a huge publisher, obviously, like not publisher, a huge. Well, I guess this is a huge conglomerate of gamers, so I can't even say that. I would say this isn't in the same vein of Spiel des Jahres, but it totally is. You have the same group, people who've played many of these games. So I'm curious to see what the feelings on reprints are in general, on whether or not they get to be put in different categories, because there is a reprint category as well. But,
okay.
So Unfathomable being the reprint of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
So out of these, what would you pick for your best cooperative game and why?
I think I'm a bit of an anomaly because I tend to like my co-op games quite light. So I would actually choose So Clover, which is probably most people's last choice, I imagine, because people like more involved co-op games. But yeah, I'd go for So Clover. I really enjoy it. I think it's a nice co-op experience. Again, I've not played the other three. Robin Hood, I liked the concept of it, but it wasn't really a game for me. It was a bit too story driven and didn't really have too much going on mechanically. But yes, So Clover would be my choice. Oh,
Gotcha.
how about you?
I think that's a great pick. I think that So Clover is so approachable, so easy to play, and I love that you're all doing that creation at the beginning. But Sleeping Gods here has to be my choice. This is a 10 out of 10 game for me. I love this, and I love that when you are cooperating, you are actually discussing and talking about the different combats and situations. I love how the characters will be split up, and so you have these different resources to go with, and that player gets to take the lead on this overarching story. I think exploration is done so well, and I think there's a lot of really cool mechanisms that you miss in the solo mode if you do play that cooperative mode. So I think it's worth exploring. I think this is you got to try Sleeping Gods, Dan. I think you're gonna love it. Actually, maybe I don't know if you would, because it is story. Story is a huge part of this, but I think because the gameplay is so streamlined, you can just pick it up and play. I think it might be something that you enjoy over these heavier story style games.
Okay. I mean, I'd love to try it, but I just don't see it being right for my collection and me playing it often. But yeah, I'd happily sit down and give it a go for a few turns. That's no issues. But yeah, not something I want for my own collection right now. Anyway,
Gotcha.
am I right thinking that Micro Macro Crime City would have been eligible for this? Or not?
Micro Macro came out in 2020. It was a 2020 game.
Okay.
Full House came out, so I think that might be in the reprint category. But
right.
Yes, the original Micro Macro did come out 2020.
Okay.
So during the retrospective, I made sure to include that. We got a comment here from Jordan. He's wondering where you can find a list. I'm going to put a link in the description below, in the description of the video, in the comments, that you can follow. We're using the BGG list, and this is just going to have all of your different 2021 games. Oh my gosh. Well, it's not going to fit in one. So you can find it on Board Game Geek. Apparently this is huge. So you're just going to go to Board Game Geek and you'll go into the search option. If you hit advanced search, you can filter your results so it shows the 2021 games. So I can't post the link, otherwise I would. It is there in the description though, if you want to piecemeal it. Any games that miss the nominees here, Dan? For cooperative.
Okay, the one that did spring to mind was obviously from the wrong year with Micro Macro. I don't play a lot of co-op games anyway, so again, I can't think of any glaringly obvious.
Gotcha. For me, I have to suggest Bullet Heart. I think Bullet Heart is wonderful. It does all of the different game modes amazingly. The competitive, cooperative, and solo experiences are great. You have a boss battling mode in the cooperative version. Now, it's not a cooperative mode first style of game, so maybe that's why it missed. It also has some real-time elements in the competitive version, which is maybe a reason it got left off of this list. But the cooperative mode actually removes the real time. So it allows you to cooperate and coordinate, and it even brings in your different effects. It'll change up those combos, different powers between different characters. So I think that's something that's worth mentioning. I'd really like Bullet Heart. Another one is Assassin's Creed, Brotherhood of Venice. I think that is a great cooperative system. They took the theme of Assassin's Creed, put it on the established V Commando system, and it works amazingly. I think it's a really great rendition of the video game IP. So those would be my choices here that did not get put on this list.
Okay, yeah, cool. Some big hitters there.
I may be talking about those later, so I'll pull up their pages at that time. So those are the best cooperative game nominees, and that moves us on to the next category, the best game from a new designer. Oh, we have best game expansion, my bad. Best game expansion nominees. So here they are. We have Endangered New Species, Lost Ruins of Arnak, Expedition Leaders, Parks Nightfall expansion, Sleeping Gods, Tides of Ruin, and Unmatched Battle of Legends Volume 2. Initial impressions, Dan.
Well, initial impressions is that I've actually not played any of these expansions. I played a few of the games, but not the expansions themselves. Some of them I don't even know what they add. I've heard very good things about Lost Ruins of Arnak, the Expedition Leaders expansion. In fact, unanimously positive stuff that I've heard. So I imagine that one could be a shoe-in for the win. And I suppose, is the Unmatched one, is that like a standalone expansion where you don't need the other stuff? It's just the box alone would be a standalone game?
Yep. For anybody who is playing any Unmatched, all you ever need to do is buy one of the boxes that has at least 2 characters in it. So this is like a volume 2 that has 5 different characters, I think. And so you can buy any of the big boxes. Cobble and Fog is the one that people usually recommend. But if you get those single standalone characters, you need another base. But yeah, this is kind of one of those. All the expansions for Unmatched are essentially standalone.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think
So
about
out of these games, I have not played the Endangered expansion, or Unmatched. I have not played Unmatched or Endangered. I don't get to play a lot of 2-player games, and Endangered is one that I missed. I have played Nightfall, I have played Arnak, and I have played Tides of Ruin. And I think that out of all these, I do think that Arnak is probably the standout out of all of them because of what it does to the game. It changes Lost Ruins of Arnak. It makes your choices a bit more interesting. It gives you some exploitable abilities and effects that you're excited to jump back to. I wasn't extremely enamored with Lost Ruins of Arnak initially. I really like the solo mode, but I felt like I was doing a lot of the same things, and just it was a little bit repetitive for me with small minor actions. But with the new expansion, I do think there's some cool exploration that you can do. I don't think I would play this game without the expansion now, so I think that's a pretty heavy recommendation for me. I really like the Expedition Leaders. It did what Rise of X did for Dune Imperium, but in a way that it drastically needed it. I thought Dune Imperium was amazing, and when you added Rise of X, it was just even better. Oh my gosh, Rise of X put Dune Imperium from a 9 to a 10 to me. Because I do think it's that good. Rise of X is so good, but it missed this expansion because Rise of X is technically a 2022 release, so it's not going to be on these nominations this year. Otherwise, those two would be in contention for sure.
Okay, yeah, cool. So are we both saying we think Arnak will win?
I think so. Anything that missed the list here?
Expansion wise, I don't think I actually picked up many expansions at all last year, to be honest. What about the what's it called? Tekenyu expansion. Should that have been on there?
I think so. I think it would have made the list here. I don't know if it's necessarily. I don't know. It is pretty good though. I like that expansion a lot.
Yeah.
Adding that additional board. I like the different resources. I like that it made the turn order a bit more important with being able to get those power cards. So there's a lot of good things in that expansion.
There we go. So yeah, maybe that one missed out. I'm not sure, but I know these games, especially like Arnak and Unmatched and Sleeping Gods, in Parks as well. Actually, they're massively popular base games. So I suppose by default they're going to be played more, and more people are going to vote for them.
Probably. 2 that I do think should maybe have even gotten a nod or a mention. I think that the campaign expansion for Zombicide of all things is really good. I quite enjoy the all-out mechanism. Your weapons can break, and it pushes you to do some goofy plays. And then I also really like the expansion for Fantasy Realms. Very small card game, but the expansion adds more cards. It gives you 1 extra hand size, which lets you do more interesting combos. And it adds a bit more of the Shoot the Moon cards in the form of the Outsider suit. So they're these gold-backed cards that are all very goofy. I played a game recently where one of my cards was just draw the top card of the deck randomly and hope for the best. So I was shooting for the moon there and totally ruined my game. I lost 100 points off of that. It was great. It was really fun.
Yeah, I'd like to try that one actually. Yeah, that'd be one I'll be more than willing to try.
Strongly recommended. Even if you're just getting it for those extra cards, it comes with another module too. That's not necessarily necessary, but it's an option if you want to spice up your game.
Cool.
So that's
Yeah.
the nominations for the best expansion. It looks like Lost Ruins of Arnak is going to do pretty well on this one.
Yeah.
That brings us to our next category, best game from a new designer. First off, we have Arc Nova from Matthias Wig, Meadow from Clemens Klik, and then we have Paleo by Peter Rustmeyer, So Clover by Francois Romain, and Unsettled by Mark Needlinger and Tom Matson. I'm pretty sure I know which one you're going to choose here. Go for it, Dan.
Yeah, I think the fact that Arc Nova was designed by someone for the first time, or a first-time designer, is absolutely mind-blowing. This game is polished. It is so well done. It's like someone's designed 20 games before coming to this one. That's just unbelievable, really. So I think this is head and shoulders above the other competition there.
I agree with you. I mean, I don't even have another suggestion. I was just like, yeah, that's got to be it. This is, yeah, someone's taken solid, amazing mechanisms and put them together to make a wonderful package with a theme that just works. It plays so well. I've really been enjoying the solo mode of this one, as well as the multiplayer. I love that the production phases are player driven. That's so cool. I love that. I love how you have so much agency on your turn and how you want things to charge with the action system, but you're also trying to do things in a specific order that may put you out of that power level efficiency. Oh, it's so good. I love this.
Yeah. I think this is one of these things. Arc Nova's got a lot of buzz and everyone talks about it all the time. But something that people don't talk about is the fact that it is this designer's first game. And there is I'm sure you'd agree, Mackenzie, 8 times out of 10, maybe 9 times out of 10, even if a designer comes out with a first game and it's a hit, there is normally stuff that if you're experienced with gaming, there's stuff that you can see that have rough edges. You can see through little things that could have easily been fixed if they, again, with more experience. But Arc Nova, I don't really see that at all.
Yeah, this is such a streamlined package, but it has so many combined mechanisms. It's so good. I agree with you fully here. I'm curious to see what this designer does next. Is Matthias going to just release expansions for Arc Nova? Is he going to take the system and put it in something else? Or is he going to give us something completely different? I'm curious.
Well, I'm sure he's going to milk that cash cow for a while to come, but it'll be interesting to see what he does come out with next, if it's something completely new.
He's got a hit on his hand. I don't see why you wouldn't.
Absolutely.
So that was an easy conversation. Best game from a new designer from us. Our selection and our choice, that's got to be Arc Nova from Matthias Wig. That brings us to our next one, best game from a small publisher. So small publishers here. We have Canvas. Do you happen to know the names of these publishing houses? I know some of them. Canvas is... I just looked at this. I just did my organizing video on this. You know the name of this publisher?
It will say on Board Game Geek, I believe.
Yeah, pulling it up really quick.
Let's have a look.
Canvas is Road to Infamy. Canvas is Road to Infamy. The Initiative, this is Corey Kaniska's new company. I feel like I should know these. The Initiative. This is from Unexpected Games. And then you've got Oath from Leader Games. And then you have Mind Management. And this is from... Oh, I should know this one too. They comment on my videos all the time. Who's this? Who's this company?
Is Mind Management. Burn Island?
Not Burn Island.
No?
Okay. I feel like I'm failing all these businesses. Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm not so good with publisher names.
I don't know Stardew Valleys either.
No.
Off the Page Games from Mind Management. And then Stardew Valley is... Is this one word? Stardew Valley, the board game. Stardew Valley is from Concerned Ape Games. Go figure. Interesting. So out of these, which have you played? Out of these games?
I've not played a single one of them.
Oh my goodness. I've played 4 out of these games, actually. The only one I haven't played is Initiative. Initiative is so interesting because I hear so many good things and I hear so many bad things. So it's not one that I really want to jump into because it is a campaign-style game. It is cooperative, so I don't think you can play this one solo. Or maybe you can, but the game isn't really built for it. And then you have to have a group that's willing to play through these things. So I'm so apprehensive to try it. I'd like to try someone else's copy before we get one for the library.
Yeah.
Everything else, though, is good to amazing. So I think that Mind Management is the standout personally. It's my favorite out of all of these. It's my favorite hidden movement game, period. I think that it's super awesome in the way that you're balancing the sides through the shift system. I just played a game of this recently where finally, from like a long time, the bad guy, the recruiter, finally won something, which was kind of cool. So now the good guy gets to unlock something. So I think that's really awesome. And I just think the gameplay is really cool because each character has objectives that they're going for. Normally, it's just one person finds the other, but in this case, each player has different objectives that they're working on at the same time,
Yeah.
which adds a bit more complexity, but also makes it a bit more intriguing. It's something you're excited to go into. These other games, which of these are you most interested to play, Dan?
I would actually be keen on trying Mind Management. Yeah, I think that out of all of them, that's the one that would suit me the most. Yeah. Do you happen to know what constitutes a small publisher, or?
I believe they can only have 2 or 3 games out, something like that. I think it's 3 games. They can only have 3 games currently out.
Right. And Leader Games, is that all they have? I thought they had more than that.
I thought they had more than that too. Yeah, I thought they had more than that too. They have Root, they have Vast, they have Fort, they have Oath,
Yeah.
they have, and then a bunch of stuff coming down the pipeline.
Maybe it's staff members or something, because they're relatively successful, aren't they? Leader Games. I mean,
I think so.
they're one of the ones that I recognise as being quite a punching out hit after hit, really.
I agree. So I find that a strange place to put Oath as opposed to some of the other nomination categories, personally.
Yeah. It must fit some kind of criteria. Yeah.
True. I do want to mention really quick, this is something that people say about Oath all the time, that it works best with the same group over and over again. I vehemently disagree with this. I think that Oath is so awesome in the way it works because it is a campaign game that doesn't have to be played with the same people. And I recommend that you don't play with the same people. The coolest part about this is when you finish a game of Oath, you write down the history of what happened in that game, and then the game state is changed. Then you play it with a new group, and this person inherits the land, inherits the character, and they get to see what they want to do with it. I love this. I love that each player can play it and jump off from that last point. And there's no reason that you have to stick with the same group. It makes it so this game is easy to learn, easy to play, because the thematic integration is there. The reason the board looks like this is because this happened. There's a literal history that you read before the game starts that explains the situation. I love this. It reminds me of something like Maracaibo, where the story just continues. You just keep playing it. You don't have to play with the same group. I love that. So I do not think, if you are apprehensive of trying Oath, that should be a barrier. I think that you can play this and you can just play it with any group, with any combination at any time. So I got to recommend this because I hear that all the time and I completely disagree with it.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. And does it just go on forever, or
Yes,
do you have
it
to
does.
It does, yeah.
It goes on forever. And the greatest thing about it is the deck of cards is the thing that changes. The deck of cards and then the layout. Wherever the game ends, that's how the game will begin the next time. Generally, whoever wins is going to burn or destroy everything else that the other players have controlled. And so the entire board will shift and move, and the map will move. And the deck of characters, whoever wins that game, they populate the deck with more of the characters that they were using the most of. So if somebody who's winning with a lot of mages wins, more mages are going to get introduced to the deck. And then all of the losers' cards out of there, some of those cards will get removed. So that is what's going to change. Not necessarily, it doesn't have anything to do with the players or any permanence between games to games when it comes to players specifically, but more of the state of the board and just a new situation. It's almost like scenario changes.
Okay, and it doesn't like push catch up mechanisms to the people who lost the previous games. No, okay,
Not at all. I don't think there really is a reason to, honestly, because it's up to the players to navigate the situation. All of the cards that you start with each game are going to be randomized and reset. The only thing that stays the same is the board on the table. And that board is going to have cards that everybody can use. So it's not necessarily something that's only for the Chancellor player who rules the land.
Okay, cool. Yeah, interesting.
Yep, big fan. I really like Oath. Don't think it's the greatest game in the world, but I think it's really awesome. I really enjoy that game. Cool. Any other thing you want to add to this section?
I don't know what constitutes a small publisher, so I wouldn't know.
Gotcha. If I were to add one more, it might be Assassin's Creed again. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice. This is from Triton Noir. They only have 2 games. And the first game they have is the V Commandos, which is basically the other version of Assassin's Creed. It's the one without the theme. And so I think that they should definitely be included because it's just 2 games. And I think that this is such a good implementation and it needs to be recommended.
Interesting, because wasn't V Commandos from many years ago?
Yes, it was. I believe
That's quite
so.
interesting. Like the big gap in between these two games, if that's the only two games they've published.
It came out in 2016. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
they got it
Yeah.
about 5 years ago.
Yeah. Interesting. I wonder what stopped them publishing more games.
I think they've just refined their one game system, which is okay to me. If you do something really well,
Yeah.
keep on going. That's fine with me. I would rather you have one amazing game than a bunch of mediocre games, personally.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's continue. Next category. Here we are. We're back on our big list, and we are moving to best party game. Best party game here is for Doodle Dash, Mystic Paths, So Clover, Snakes, and Super Mega Lucky Box. What do you think, Dan?
I think that I've only ever played So Clover out of all of these.
I think
So yeah, unfortunately, I can't really go into too much. I know, I believe Super Mega Lucky Box is some kind of like bingo variant thing,
Mhm.
is it? Like a yeah, I know that's Phil Walker Harding. I had some people say good things about that one. Um, but yeah, I didn't realize Mystic Paths was a party game. It looks like more of an adventure style game, doesn't it, from the box cover?
It has you drawing different words on these dry erase tiles and putting them out on the board, is what it looks like from an outside observer. Same as you, I've only played So Clover. I actually didn't get Super Mega Lucky Box, because it is by Phil Walker Harding, who also did Silver and Gold, and looked like there was a lot of overlap between those two. But seeing as
Yeah.
it's nominated here, maybe it's pretty amazing. Maybe I should give it a try.
Well, I think this has been a bit of a yeah. People who like this one really like it. I've heard some people really advocate it, and everybody else doesn't seem to mention it at all. So it's like it's got its fan base. So maybe this one could be a slow burner. I don't know.
And so Super Mega Lucky Box is the one that you would try first out of all these other options?
I think so. I don't know what Doodle Dash is. I mean, I tend to like drawing games. It goes down well when we have bigger player counts. So I assume it's some kind of speed drawing game. But and I can't recall what Snakes is either. Um,
Snakes is actually the one that I would like to try the most. I saw this on, ooh, I'll have to figure out their channel name in a second here, but I saw it featured, and it's a trivia game with social deduction put into it. And I think that's such a
yeah.
great idea, where one person is given the answer, and similar to something like Where Words, you're trying to deceive everybody else while giving out false information, maybe pretending you know what it is. This sounds
Right.
really cool. This sounds like a great twist on the social deduction and trivia genre.
Yeah, I could see the game like that going down well with my group. Absolutely. That box cover is absolutely terrible, though.
Really? I feel
Oh, I
it's
hate
pretty
it.
tantalizing to me.
I don't like it at all.
All right. Anything that missed this nomination list for you?
Thinking of party games from last year, I think the only standout for me was So Clover. So yeah, every other party game I played, I think, was from previous years.
Same here. I did a lot of catching up. I got to try Detective Club, which I think is amazing. I think that is one of the best party games from a long time. I found the channel, though, that I was thinking of, No Rules Barred. They did a Let's Play on snakes, and it looked pretty convincing.
Okay, cool.
So go check
Yeah,
out No Rules Barred if you're interested.
all right. And on Detective Club, I just ordered a copy of Detective Club, so looking forward to playing
Yes. I hope you have a blast with it. I have had nothing but success with it. There's also expansion for it. It's only in
that. Oh,
French, but doesn't matter because it's literally just more art cards and more pieces of paper. So you can
perfect.
still get the multi-language version of the Detective Club expansion. Just adds more variety, which is golden for a game like this.
I'm sure I'll be picking that one up.
Perfect. So those are the nominations for Best Party Game. It looks like So Clover from us, mainly because of our lack of knowledge, but also because So Clover's a pretty great game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Me too. Next up, we have Best Production Values. Here are the nominees. We have Seven Wonders Architects, Ankh Gods of Egypt, Canvas, Maglev Metro, and Sleeping Gods. First impressions.
First impressions, I've not seen any of these games in person, so I can't testify for the production quality. But I'm assuming they're all got very different price points, so I don't know
That's true.
how you judge this. Ankh, I know you've got all the miniatures and stuff, and to be honest, Simon always do a great job of production without being too expensive, actually, because they got some really high quality miniatures at a pretty reasonable price considering. But I don't know the extra steps games like Canvas and Architects have got. Am I right in thinking that Canvas had like little easels and things?
So
Maybe
Canvas
that's what.
has the card crafting system. So you've got
Yeah.
the cards that will stack over each other. It does with I think it's the original printing of the Kickstarter edition had little easels that you'll put your masterpieces on when you're finished. You've got this cloth mat for the base game that you'll be putting things on. The deluxe
Okay.
edition has some wooden ribbons and actual like button ribbons that you can put on and stuff. When I think of best production I'm looking at the entire thing and I'm thinking, what gives me the best? Whoa, this is incredible. I'm looking at the entire package and thinking this every little piece just is so well detailed and done, which is why Ankh doesn't get it for me on this one, because I think the board on Ankh is not the prettiest. It's clean and it makes sense. It's not busy at all, but I don't think it's the prettiest board in the world. So that is honestly why Ankh is not winning this one for me. Have you seen shots of any of these or any of the actual boards?
Obviously, I've seen Sleeping Gods, like obviously pictures and stuff,
Mhm.
but it all just looks like cardboard everywhere. So I don't know what makes it, what makes it the best production. Is it just high quality paper, high quality cardboard? I don't know. Um, and I think the Architects one is a similar thing, but some of the player boards are like cut out in like the different kind of wonders of the world. That looks quite cool. So again, I don't know because I've not physically handled these pieces.
So Architects is the only one that I have not actually played, but I have seen it. It is really pretty. You have these boxes, they're game tray styles. You pull them out, and they've got all your pieces there, which is super nice for production value. So I think that
Yeah.
definitely is added. But I do think, for me, it's going to go to Sleeping Gods. I think that Sleeping Gods doesn't necessarily win the greatest production value for, sorry, not greatest production value, but greatest artwork. But I think that production value is amazing. You've got this huge storybook. You really feel like you're immersed in this area when you play this game. You've got all these different characters with their own vivacious backgrounds. You have different cards that you'll be drawing and playing. It feels like every card tells a story in addition to the game itself telling a story. So I really like the production value here. A close second to me would be Canvas, because I do like that original package. But I actually think it loses something when you throw in the expansion, because you're replacing that cloth mat with a board and you have a little bit more convolution with some of the cards. So it's a weird twist for me, but it would be somewhere in between Sleeping Gods and Canvas personally for my choices.
Yeah, cool. And with production, I think maybe you might lean more one way towards a different way than I do. You like everything being all bells and whistles, as kind of deluxe and as you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like not superfluous, but as much as
I
it
know what
wrapped
you
up
mean.
as it
You mean
could be. Yeah,
superfluous.
me, I'm perfectly happy with just a game being nicely done.
Yeah.
Decent cardboard, um, and just well finished, well produced. I don't need all those extra stuff, especially the more stuff that comes in. I like having just simple and minimalist, really. In a couple of years ago, I was probably the opposite way. So maybe this category is a bit lost on me. I don't know.
Gotcha. I definitely can appreciate where you're coming from. Things like Biblios, I love how awesome of a production that is. You've got the board, you got the dice that function for everything, and then you got a deck of cards. Perfect. It works amazingly. There's no
Yeah,
extra clutter. It's so well done. But then you have games like Sleeping Gods, where I want to have this big sprawling map in front of me and all this stuff. So I like both of those ways. It makes sense to
yeah,
me.
fair enough.
All
So, what do you
right.
think is going to take it? Do you think Sleeping Gods is going to win?
I think Canvas is going to win.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think Canvas the game is a work of art, and you can even forego playing the game well to create pieces of art. So I mean, as seen as that's an option in the game, and with the expansion, there's now a masterpiece feature where you can lose the game, but you can still win it by just having the greatest art piece, and people will vote on it. Super goofy.
Cool. Yeah, interesting.
All
There we go.
right. That brings us to our next category here. We have the best reprint nominees. And this is where I was wondering why Unfathomable wasn't in here. So we have Galaxy
Hmm.
Trucker, Great Western Trail, 2nd edition, Kemet Blood and Sand, Summoner Wars, 2nd edition, and Ticket to Ride Europe, 15th anniversary. What do you think, Dan?
Um, so the reprint. So I've not played any of these reprints. I've played a few of these games.
Mhm.
Galaxy Trucker. I'm assuming the reprint is just a bit more family-friendly artwork by the looks of the box cover. Um, so yeah, I think that probably lends itself to the game quite well. Great Western Trail, I think, was probably in need of a bit of a reskin, or at least a makeover, because the box cover for Great Western Trail was terrible. This one looks a lot cooler. But I thought the rest of the Great Western Trail looked fine. So I don't think any of the rules changed. So is it completely necessary? I'm not sure.
For Great Western Trail, they actually did a couple of really cool things. They added
Okay.
new types of cows that actually change as you play, which is really neat. They actually will age up. You also have some of the board spaces and tiles have been modified so that different strategies can't be abused. You probably won't notice this if you haven't played it a bunch of times, but they've made it so that the dump off your discs early in Kansas City strategy isn't as viable. Still very strong, but it's not like a guarantee must do. And they've also added a solo mode, which is huge. Now, the only reason I haven't gotten the second edition of Great Western Trail is I prefer Great Western Trail with the expansion. They don't have it yet for it, but they did just announce that they are releasing it with the expansion.
Yeah.
So I'll be getting that probably when that comes out.
Yeah, I think Great Western Trail will take it. Again, it got a big amount of buzz when it was announced. Seems like a lot of people did transfer from the old one to the new one. So again, they must be doing something right. And I didn't realize that there were some rules tweaks as well to make it a better game itself. So all those things, I think, will give it the win.
I think so too. I think it's so high on BGG already. Like I think it has that fan base already coming into it. I do
Yeah.
want to know Summoner Wars. This is a game that I've been so curious about. I've been juggling Unmatched and Summoner Wars as like my next 2-player game I really want to try. And Summoner Wars just sounds so interesting. I've played the original years ago, and I don't really remember my play of it that well, but I was intrigued with the idea of your cards are everything. They're your units, your characters, and you are a king in chess essentially, but you're a king that you can give a sword to and you could give these awesome abilities to, and you're actually throwing out your pieces as you play. Oh, I really want to try this one. Have you played Summoner Wars? Have you played Unmatched? Which 2-player game do you recommend I try next?
I've played Unmatched, and I have not played Summoner Wars.
Oh, tell me about Unmatched.
Unmatched. So if you like these kind of head-to-head, obviously skirmish little style games, then I think you're probably going to like it. I was lukewarm on it at best, but that's me, my personal taste. I don't normally like those style of games anyway, and I was pretty much, almost resigned to feeling like that because I kind of knew I wasn't going to like it going into it. However, I do think it does a good job of making every character feel different. It does a good job of kind of being fast paced and moving around and using these little like helpers and things. But I thought the combat itself wasn't terribly interesting. It was just kind of play cards and hope you have the higher number kind of thing, if I remember right. I only played it a few times, but it's just not my style of gameplay. But obviously, people who do like this style of game think it's very good of its type. So I'm sure I am the minority and I'm wrong.
So what do you mean by the combat? It felt you were just getting a higher number. How does the combat work exactly?
God, you're really forced me to remember now.
I'm so curious. I really want to know.
I remember it not feeling terribly taxing on what cards you should play. As in, just here's my best card. I'll play my best card.
Gotcha.
Like that kind of thing. There wasn't really like, oh, should I play this one? Should I play this one? Do I need to sacrifice this to do this? It was kind of like if you had the best cards in your hand, it'd work out the best for you.
Perfect. That is exactly what I wanted to hear.
I could be, doing the game a disservice, but that's the kind of impression I had.
Feel free to roast Dan in the comments.
Yeah, please do, because I may be talking from ignorance here.
Clearly, it has a huge fan base, and now we have the Marvel IP going into Unmatched. So if people are enjoying it, just more stuff to enjoy, more cross combinations. The Raptors versus Ghost Rider sounds like a wonderful combination. All right, we move on to our next category here. Probably Canvas will win that last one. Makes sense to me. Now we've got our best reprint. Oh no, we talked about best reprint. My bad. With Great Western Trail. Did you think anything else needed to be on best reprint? I forgot to ask that.
Best reprint. I can't even think what other games were reprinted. I think that was 2020. No, I can't think of any other reprints that I picked up last year.
So I think that Burgle Bros 2 was really good. That was an excellent reprint. It's a sequel. Do sequels count?
I wouldn't think so. But then again, I thought Blood and Sand was a sequel, so I'm Blurred Lines. I'm not sure.
Okay, so because Railroading Challenge is also really good, and so is The Crew, Mission Deep Sea. I think those are all really good reprints, but I guess they're all sequels. So maybe they don't.
Yeah, I'd consider them more of a sequel. But yeah, but I thought Blood and Sand was a completely, new game. Like you could have them both. It's not like Kemet 2 or Kemet Reprint is. I don't know.
So I've only played Blood and Sand, so I cannot speak if it's like a complete copy over. But I
Yeah.
think that Committed Blood and Sand is pretty cool. I really like that one too. But I do think that Great Western Trail does have a bit one over on that one.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So there is Great Western Trail, our winner for the best reprint, and apparently sequels do not count here. Up next, we have best solo game nominees. This is where Dan is going to take the reins on this one. Go ahead. What?
Okay. This is actually this year. I've actually played 3 of these games, and I played 3 of them solo, and I'm not even a solo
Ah!
gamer.
That's
So yeah,
amazing.
I played Arc Nova, Cascadia, and Hadrian's Wall all solo, and they all are very good solo games. And that's coming from me, who again is not a solo gamer. I very rarely do it, but these all did entice me enough to try them solo, and they all work very well. And I actually think this is a very tough one to choose because they're all very good at what they do. So I think this might be one of the strongest categories yet. I think
Yeah.
I think that out of these 3, they all offer. Well, I'm ignoring the other 2 because I haven't played the other 2, but
Mhm.
I know you're a fan of the other 2.
Yes.
If I had to choose one, I might choose. Um, ooh, oh, it's so tough. This is a really tough one. I might say Arc Nova because Arc Nova
Mm.
is a pretty long game when you're playing with more people, and Arc Nova solo you can pretty much get the whole experience, but you can shave off 40% of the time,
Yep.
and that for me is it means a lot. But I don't want to discredit Cascadia because Cascadia even works really well as a quick solo game. And Hadrian's Wall, it's a multiplayer solo game anyway. So again, you get the whole experience in and you can just get your head down and just do your own thing and entertain yourself really. So very strong candidates, but I would slightly give it to Arc Nova because of how much time you can shave off. How about you?
So I've played all of these games solo. I think they're amazing solo games, and I've played them a lot solo, which is pretty cool. And I think that I have to give it to Hadrian's Wall. I think that
Yeah,
Sleeping Gods is amazing. It was very close between Sleeping Gods and Hadrian's Wall. But right now, if I'm picking a game off the shelf, a lot of times it's Hadrian's Wall. I'm getting that one. That's the one I'm playing. I played a game of it last night. I've gone through the campaign, the solo campaign once, and I'm doing it again right now. And it's so good. It's so much fun, and it's one that I gravitate towards quite a bit. But I'm in the middle of recording the top 50 solo games, and Ark Nova and Sleeping Gods and Final Girl all on that list. I just talked about these in those video recording sessions. They're amazing. Cascadia also very, very good. It has
yeah,
an achievement thing on the back where it's going to change up the gameplay as well, which is what I love in solo systems. Ways to make it interesting and things that are going to get you pulled back. And you nailed it with Arc Nova. It shaves off the game time. You are playing consistently. It's always your turn. I love that on one of these
yeah,
huge engine building games. It's one of the reasons I love Underwater Cities so much, is because you're just constantly playing your stuff. And Final Girl is built for solo play. And Sleeping Gods, best adventure game. Period. And it's so much fun. This is such a hard year for best solo game. All these
yeah.
are great. You cannot go wrong with any of these. Pick the theme you like. You'll have a great time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if I haven't made a top 10 solo games list, if I did, I'm sure all 3 of these, or the 3 I've played, would be on that list. Um, so, so yeah, I mean, very, very strong category.
And the crazy thing is one of the best solo games to come out ever didn't even make the nominations, and that's Bullet Heart. And that was my game of the year last year. I love this game fully, and it didn't even make the solo category, which is crazy to me because it's so good. You play with that same boss mode from the cooperative version. It's a puzzle game. It fits in that weird balance between a lighter filler game, but also very thoughtful decision making, decision space, varied powers and abilities, which is great for solo games because that's essentially your difficulty level. You don't necessarily care about things being too unbalanced. It's a challenge, right? This is something that you're going to have to build around. Oh, I love this game. If you haven't tried Bullet, please get a copy. They're doing a standalone sequel here very soon with Bullet Star. I love these different characters with all of their different abilities, powers, and then the game itself has you managing the different resources in front of you, but they're not only the resources you're using to activate things, but also the things that could potentially knock you out of the game. So great risk management. The push your luck is incredible, and the asymmetry and just overall fun and puzzle is wonderful. So I had to get it in here at one point, but Bullet is also amazing. So that's my recommendation for you. That's Bullet Hearts. But as you saw earlier, Hadrian's Wall, Arc Nova, Cascadia, these are all hits. You cannot go wrong with any of those games if you're a solo player. Pick the one that you like. Honestly, pick the one that looks interesting to you.
Yeah, agreed.
Raf says, would you say that pre and bullet tokens are a must for Bullet Heart? Yes. Yes, I would. I'm not even going to pretend they're not. They're big, chunky wooden pieces. You pull them out, they feel amazing. Any bag building style game where consistently touching things, you're going to want to make sure that those pieces are incredible. Also, if you play with a cardboard, if you're playing a lot, the rate that we play, they're going to get damaged. They really are. So either get coin capsules or get the wood ones, because you're going to be digging in that bag consistently. And just like the Quacks of Quedlinburg chits, they're going to get pretty gross pretty quick if you don't have something that's protected or upgraded. So good question, Raf. I strongly recommend that if you can, get a copy of those. Upgraded bullets. Any other thoughts on best solo game, Dan? It's so cool you've been doing some solo gaming.
Yeah, no, all of the ones I would have recommended were there listed as nominees. So I think that's a good, very well, good nominees, and yeah, hopefully, well, to be honest, it's a win-win situation. I'm interested, actually, Mackenzie. I'm surprised you didn't mention Imperium. Am I thinking that you're a fan of Imperium?
I am a fan of Imperium, but honestly, it's not the game that I gravitate towards the most for solo games. I do still play it quite a bit solo, but all of those I would probably grab more than Imperium.
Okay.
2021 was one of the best years for solo gaming, if we're being honest. There was just so many amazing titles. And I think 2022 is shaping up to be also incredible. So it's good stuff. It's a good time to be a solo gamer, I'm telling you. It's even drawn you in. I've got people in that have never solo gamed before to play solo games.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's becoming bigger and bigger, isn't it? A bigger part of the hobby. And that's not changing anytime soon by the looks of it.
Not at all. I love it. It's the best way to ensure that a game gets played is to play it by yourself.
That's very true.
Facts.
Very true.
All right, we move on to our next category here. This is for best strategy game. Now, this is a big one, and I will actually have you start off on the discussion on this one. Best strategy game goes to Anno 1800, Ark Nova, Furnace, Maglev Metro, and Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition.
Ooh, some good. So I've played 3 of these. I played Anno 1800. In fact, I own 3 of these. So Anno 1800, Furnace, and Ark Nova. I rate them all highly. I rate Ark Nova above the other 2. So I think just by default, I rate Ark Nova the best. So therefore, I'd have to choose Ark Nova. But again, I don't want to take away from the other 2. I think maybe this is an unlevel playing field because Furnace doesn't really cater to the same audience as Anno 1800 and Ark Nova do, because they are much heavier than Furnace is. Furnace for me is like a Gateway Plus level game. It's nowhere near the same audience as Ark Nova. So maybe these could have been broken down into further categories. I don't know, but how many categories can you have? But yeah, Ark Nova would be for me. I think it's the best of the 3. But then I Anno 1800 and then Furnace. But again, I love them all anyway. So it's all positives.
Excellent. That's glad to hear. They just had a reprint of Furnace, so it's readily available now, which is awesome. So hopefully I'll get a game of that in soon. Maglev Metro sounds very interesting as well. I really, really like Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. It's one of my favorites. Great solo, great co-op, great competitive. It is the system that I was looking for in a card evaluation style game. So I really had a good time with that, but I want to try Anno 1800. Anything to speak towards that game in particular?
Yeah, it's actually a very interesting game. It's basically tech trees galore. You're basically starting off making basic goods, and then you can basically get more and more goods, and then you can combine these together as prerequisites to get more and more exotic goods, trying to fill these contracts basically of these people and what they want. It has a very interesting pacing to it, which can have the potential to feel like you're not getting anywhere, like you're swimming through, jelly. Because basically, when you sometimes complete things and upgrade your kind of capacity to do things, you take more and more cards in, and that can make you feel like you're drowning at times, and it feels like you're not getting anywhere. But then you eventually start getting such a cool infrastructure where you can start smashing out all these contracts and bring the game to an end. But I like everything about this game, really. It's so logical. If you want to build boats, then you need to get the sails, you need to get the wood, you need to get the cannons. So it all comes together in a really logical manner, which I think Martin Wallace does great, and not very bloated either. So quite a simple rule set where you're just basically moving these cubes around and activating the buildings they're on. So I actually think this game is great. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what the expansion entails, because I think this game, a very rare exception actually, that a game I think could be improved upon with an expansion, because there is a few issues with it. And normally for me, I'm not willing to give a game the benefit of the doubt needing to be fixed with an expansion. I want it to be great as it is. But I think there's enough promise with Anno 1800 that it could be even better. An expansion could raise that level. So yeah, excited to see what that happens. But the base game alone is great, but it could be even better. Should they get a few things better, corrected.
Thank you for your insight. But I have to agree with you. I think that Ark Nova is going to take it for sure. Amazing game, as you mentioned, and it's such a surprise that it's from that first time designer.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, and then Michael here played a game of, I assume, Anno 1800. Really enjoyed it. When we're going to describe it as turn stuff into other stuff of the game. Would you agree with Michael?
Oh, 100%. That's exactly what it is. And I will say that the first time you play it, it does feel a bit overwhelming because there's a ton of these tiles. As you play it more and more, it just becomes pretty simple, to be honest. So it's one of those games that's quite intimidating, but maybe a bit misleading because it's not that bad.
Cool. That's exciting. I'd like to give this one a try. I really would. This is going to be on my list of things to search for. Any games that missed this nomination category?
Let's have a look. Any big games from last year?
One that came to my mind right away was Boon Lake. I think Boon Lake should have been nominated. It's such a fresh take on just the action system. I think is so well done, and I love how you have so much customization in the cards and the levers, and also in the pacing. You could choose and dictate how quickly that game's going, which is really neat.
Yeah, I would have completely agreed with Boon Lake, and another one that would have come to I would have suggested. I don't know if it would count as a new game or probably a reprint actually, which would have been from the other category. Would be the reprint for Tinner's Trail. That was that was from 2021, I believe. So
that was that was your top game, of 2021.
Well,
now that Ark Nova's there,
but I've tried. Yeah, I think that's before I played Ark Nova. So maybe Ark Nova might have just snatched the top spot, but there's still a few games that aren't out in England yet that that came out in 2021. So there's a bit of a delay.
Gotcha. Well, Anno 1800 says that it's technically a 2020 game, so I mean, maybe it doesn't count for these awards.
Okay. I think maybe the European version was 2021, and
gotcha.
I don't know.
I know we couldn't get it till 2021.
Okay.
It's always tricky when it comes to release dates.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's go to the next category. We are at now Best Theming. Best Game Theming. Ark Nova with a wonderful zookeeping theme. Final Girl with being the final girl in a horror setting. Horrified American Monsters, where you're going to be taking on these different American creatures. Roll Camera, the filmmaking board game, where you are literally making films. And Sleeping Gods, where you are sailing around the wandering sea. What do you think?
Only played one of them, and you know which one it is. So, yeah, by default, I'd have to select that one. I've heard good things about Roll Camera, though. So I'd like to try that one. But yeah, the other ones I can't overly comment on.
Gotcha. I think this is another thing that you can take a look at these things maybe from an outside perspective and get some ideas just by learning how the mechanics are integrated into the theme. I've only played 4 of these. I've played Ark Nova, Final Girl, Horrified, and Sleeping Gods. But I think Final Girl's theming is the game. I think the theming is so well done in Final Girl. Each of the scenarios that you play is a box, and you'll compare that with another box. One's location, one's the character. You mix them together, and then you're going to have a scenario that's completely drawn from those 2 different worlds that you've combined. You may have this terrible poltergeist that thematically you cannot interact with. It's a ghost. Good luck touching it. And then you have maybe you're at a location. One of them is Maple Lane, and that is just a bunch of suburban houses. And so you're going out there, and you have to actually knock on the doors. You can't just break into stuff because people live there. Good luck with that. So I like that there's these tiny little thematic touches from the characters, the items, the special abilities, and then the locations you're actually at too. So I think the theming is really good in Final Girl.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I kind of not played it, but I know you're a big fan of it, and I think a theme is a big part of that.
Any other games that need to be on this section here for best theming?
No, I mean the one that sprang to mind immediately was Ark Nova. Other than that, I mean, I think Tinner's Trail is not a bad shout if it was eligible, because I think it's got some cool thematic ties. But other than that, again, nothing overly springs to mind.
Gotcha. I'm going to mention Brotherhood of Venice again. I think that theme is so well done, bringing the Assassin's Creed universe to the board game format. I think it's really well done. So not going to get into too much detail because we've already talked about it. Yep. Next up, we've got our best 2-player game nominees. We got Ankh Gods of Egypt, which is a feat in its own, a giant miniatures game, being amazing at 2-player. Caper Europe, Land versus Sea, Radlands and That Time You Killed Me. Initial impressions.
I've only played. In fact, no, I haven't played any of these ones. But I really do want to
Ah,
play. I want to play Caper badly though.
you need to play
Caper Europe.
Caper. We just got it. It's really good. Amazing. I think that game is really good. That actually might be that's I think that's my choice here. I think that's what I selected. Yeah, that's my selection. Is I think that Caper Europe is the best 2-player out of all of these. I was
Okay.
not that impressed with Radlands. I thought it was fine. It was a little slow for being a game that's supposed to be fast paced. You're doing a lot of tapping and exhausting characters with the abilities, so you're not actually able to use a lot of your cards a lot of the times, which is pretty
Right.
annoying. So didn't really like that in Radlands. I think Ank's 2-player is very good, but it's also very cutthroat. Not cutthroat, but obviously it's going to be cutthroat. It's a 2-player game, but it's very much like you have to think very, very critically about every move you make because most of the information is open.
Okay.
So the battles can be very swingy. So every decision is very important, which is good for a 2-player game. Don't get me wrong, but one mistake and you can pretty much get snowballed into a loss.
Cool.
Go
A
ahead.
game that didn't make it on here that I thought was quite nice is a game called Great Plains. That
Oh
was quite a
yeah.
nice little route building game. Strictly 2 players. Again, I think the people who've played it do like it a lot. It's from I think it's from Lookout who published it, and I tend to like their 2-player line. So that was one worth a mention, I think.
And then speaking back to Bullet Heart, I think Bullet Heart's 2-player mode is really, really good. The head-to-head version, competitive real time, is amazing at 2-player. And I also think that the cooperative boss battling at 2-player is also extremely good. One game that we haven't really gone super in depth with is Mind Management. Is also amazing 2-player game. It's not 2-player only, which is maybe why it didn't get onto this nomination. But I think the
Yeah.
2-player version of Mind Management is amazing. It's so good because you just have one player being the recruiter and one player being the rogue agents. And so it's very back and forth, and there's a lot less downtime because the players have all of it in their head. They're able to make those decisions right away.
Yeah, cool. I didn't realize that this was just so any game that's good at 2-player doesn't have to be strictly 2-player.
I don't know if it's strictly 2-player because looking at the nominations, we've got Ankh, which obviously can play all the way up to 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know why those other games didn't get put on here. It doesn't make any sense to me.
You could pick so many games for this category if that's the case. They're not
That's
2-player
true.
only games. It could be hundreds.
Any other comments or anything on this?
Any other ones that were really good at 2 players?
Caper Europe. If you haven't played it and you play 2-player games, you need to get Caper Europe. It's a cheap box. It is so much fun. There's a lot of modularity and replayability in the different locations that you visit. It fixes the majority of problems from the original printing, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's streamlined. It is so much fun. The drafting in it is wonderful, and I love the item system, how you're playing the items on the different thieves, and just this multi-layered area control. Oh, it's so good. I love it.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely coming up on my buys. Yeah, I'll pick it up sooner or later.
I'm excited for you to try that one. I want to hear your thoughts on it. Awesome. Cool. So those are the 2-player game nominees, and that brings us to our next category, the welcoming game. Best welcoming game. We've got 7 Wonders Architect, Canvas, Cascadia, Picture Perfect, and Super Mega Lucky Box.
Okay. Yeah. So I played 2 of these, Cascadia and Picture Perfect, and I like them both a lot. There's a couple of games that I do feel like are missing. But out of the nominees here, I think Cascadia is going to take it. Such a versatile game. Anybody can play it. Yet you don't have to play it with just newbies or as an introductory game because it does have, plenty of things going on to keep you engaged, no matter your experience, which I think is the best type of game. You don't want something that's you're gonna get bored of and move on quickly. I think Cascadia's got legs to keep stay around for a long time.
I agree with you fully. I think Cascadia is a ringer for this category. Really quick, I have a question from Michael about the last category for Ankh being a strange choice in 2-player. So the 2-player version of Ankh removes the merge mechanic. And so that's something that people actually like about the 2-player mode is they didn't enjoy the merge in the multiplayer setting. So this is seen as a positive. I like the merge mechanism. I find that it makes for a very interesting catch-up mechanism. We played a game recently where one of the merge players won the game by like 2 points. Oh, it was so cool. But it does get completely removed in the 2-player setting, and it's all about the control. It reminds me more of a Knizia game where you are trying to have control points on the map and just trying to make sure that those areas score. So I really like that form of this 2-player mode. So that's what they do is they remove the merge mechanism. But wholeheartedly agree with you. I think Cascadia is going to take this one. I can see Canvas and Super Mega Lucky Box just because of their sheer popularity. And I do think Seven Wonders Architects is a great welcoming game.
Okay.
Michael
There's
agreeing
actually a
here.
couple of games here that I think are actually should be on the nominations.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, Free Ride. I thought that was great. Maybe
Mm.
maybe it's slightly too heavy. Juicy Fruits. That was a nice one. Again, very accessible. Nice family-friendly appeal to it. But the one that I would have actually put on the list and actually given the award to, or personally, would be Savannah Park. I think Savannah Park is a better game than Cascadia, which is
Wow.
probably quite controversial. But I prefer Savannah Park. I think it's a wonderful family game.
Interesting. I'm surprised that So Clover didn't make it onto this list.
Yeah,
Personally,
maybe they exclude no, because Super Mega Lucky Box was in the party game, wasn't it?
yes, it
Category.
definitely
So
was.
yeah, good point. Good point.
I think that's a game that, once again, anybody can play. I think that since it's cooperative, you can actually help people. You can talk. You can discuss. It's inviting. It's super inviting. So I'm surprised So Clever didn't make it. Savannah
Yeah.
Park, though, interesting. What makes it stand out over Cascadia for you?
I just think it's just different. I think it's different. I mean, I think Cascadia does a lot of things that other games do. You know, it's not terribly unique. It's got the dual drafting thing, which is it's a little USP, I think, make it a bit different than everything else. But Savannah Park is it's basically this big dynamic sliding puzzle where you are, picking stuff up and creating space for everything else and trying to put the animals in groups. It plays in about half an hour. Again, you can explain the rules in less than a minute, which I know Cascadia you probably can as well. But there's something about this game that I think this game is fantastic. And maybe another game I think that might start to catch on, not the year it was released, because it's timeless. I think it's another one of those evergreen style games where it's never not going to be fun to try and arrange this puzzle as best you can. But I think it's wonderful.
All right. Got a great endorsement for Savannah Park. Awesome. So that brings us to our last category, which is, well, I guess not our last category yet. We still have to do our game of the year. But our next category is for most innovative game. Pull up the nominations here. So, most innovative games, we have Merchant's Cove, Mind Management, Picture Perfect, Sleeping Gods, and So Clover. Let me pull this up for you. Here you are. So, Merchant's Cove, Mind Management, Picture Perfect, Sleeping Gods, and So Clover. What do you think, Dan? Anything that missed the list first?
Anything that missed the list? Let's have a quick look at the games I played. I can't think of anything terribly innovative. Just a quick look. Well, in Witchcraft, I thought was quite unique. Worked differently than a lot of other games do, where you're trying to basically make someone else's cauldron blow up. So you're actively trying to hurt other people as a winning condition, which is different in itself. But I think the one that did spring to mind immediately was, for me personally, Picture Perfect. So Picture Perfect is different. It's got a bit of a novelty factor to it. The fact that when you are doing this kind of deduction thing where everybody's got a unique need and you're trying to arrange all these standees, but the kind of novelty thing about it is you do physically take a photograph at the end of the game to
so cool.
calculate your score, and that's different. It's fun. It's something that no other game has done, and it's one of the things you take away from the game and makes you remember it. And I think that idea of remembering games is kind of plays a big part in it being unique, because there are so many games out there now when you can do something to stand out amongst the pack, then that's worth mentioning, and Picture Perfect does that. So I would give it to Picture Perfect.
Okay. For me, I think that I would actually pick this. This is a really hard one for me. From these choices, I think that, as you described, I haven't played Picture Perfect, but it does sound incredible. It sounds so interesting. I love the idea of using this third-party outside source, but the game is played around that. It's not necessarily just focused on that. I'm not using the phone the whole time, but you always have it in your head, and that's what you're thinking. Changing the way that you're approaching the game. I think that's really cool. So I think that Picture Perfect would probably get it, but I haven't even played it, so I can't speak to that. Out of the ones I've played, I think out of the ones I played, my choice wouldn't even be on here. My choice is actually For Science. Have you heard of this game?
I have heard of this game. Yeah, I don't know too much about it.
So For Science, I'll go ahead and pull it up for you here. For Science is a game. I'm actually going to talk about this on our corporate cardboard here in a second. But the fact that you have a logical construction of these blocks, but you've wrapped around a cooperative game around it, I think is so interesting. They've essentially said, hey, let's make a experience where you are going to be essentially building with blocks and building a tile map, but let's break it. Let's break it out of the box and do all of these strange things. You have new events, player abilities, and mutations that are going to push the boundaries of this medium of the building blocks by using real world modifications, having you do things that you would never think about doing in a board game. And I love that. So I think it pushes that boundary of the tactile experience and the real time genre. I think it does it so well. So For Science is my recommendation for unique game. It's just so funky. It's going to be one that you're going to want to try again and again because it's just like, what could they possibly think of? And I think that's shown really well in the different mutations as well as the different ability cards of the scientists that you get to be. So what a funky game. That would be my choices for Science, the building block cooperative game.
Cool. Do you think this should have been nominated in the cooperative category?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a really good cooperative game. I'm not going to pretend it's not. It's fun. It's really fun. It's very different, not your normal good stuff happens, bad stuff happens. It's you're a team, you're doing this thing, got to do the best you can at it. I like it. It's very different.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so difficult to be unique now. Again, it's so difficult. People reaching further and further to be different, and when they pull it off, fair play.
Agreed. This brings us to our last category, Dan. We'll wrap up this stream and then head over to your channel. This is the Game of the Year nomination. So here we are, Game of the Year nominations, starting with Seven Wonders Architects, Arc Nova, Cascadia, Hadrian's Wall, Maglev Metro, Meadow, Merchant's Cove, Mind Management, and Sleeping Gods. I think I know what your answer is for this one.
Yeah, my answer is absolutely, and I think it's going to be most people's answer, is going to be Arc Nova. I think some of these games aren't even worthy of being in the same category, to be honest. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but Meadow for me, it was nothing special. I mean, I can't even understand rationally why people would put this in the best of the year category. It's fine. It's just another game out of a sea of thousands. It's I don't know. I don't see it having that extra X factor to stand amongst, shoulder to shoulder with a game like Arc Nova. It's just completely leagues apart. But yeah, Arc Nova for me. But some games here that I would put higher than a lot of these games that weren't nominated. So there we go.
Out of these, what do you think my pick is?
Out of these, your pick. Ooh, I'm not sure if you rate Hadrian's Wall higher than Arc Nova. I think you might do, actually. So I think you'd choose Hadrian's Wall.
I actually am going to choose Sleeping Gods out of these choices.
Oh, apologies. Yeah.
That's okay. I think that's Sleeping Gods, and you can just tell it's in pretty much every category it can be nominated for because it's that good. As I mentioned before, it's my favorite adventure game. I think it is the most inviting, but also very interesting. I love the combat. I love the choices. I love the story. I love that there's a time limit that's pushing you forward with all of your actions. So you're not just meandering. You actually have a purpose and a goal, and that goal evolves as you play. You can always pick a new place to go to. You can always pick a challenge, and it's up to you how you want to approach it. You have scalable difficulty. You have a growing set of items that you're going to be experiencing and using and utilizing so you become familiar with it. And someone will look at your game state in a later mode and be like, what the heck is going on? And you yourself, you know exactly what's happening. You can look at every single piece and be like, oh, I got that from that island. I know what this is from. Oh, I've used this gun many a time. Oh, that's Old Faithful over there. It's so awesome. I love Sleeping Gods. I think it's a masterpiece. I really do. I think it's the best in its genre. So I think that if anything amazing came from this year, it's got to be Sleeping Gods for me.
Okay, so that's even if you included games that weren't nominated, it would still be Sleeping Gods.
Well, you got to do this to me. I think that Bullet Heart is also real good. That would be the only. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think my couple of my favorites from last year weren't nominated. Witchstone, I thought Witchstone was fantastic. That wasn't nominated. Again, Boon Lake, another one of my favorites from last year, wasn't nominated. I thought that game was great from Alexander Pfister. And again, I can't remember if Tennis Trail was eligible or not, but that would have been another candidate for me.
Gotcha. To answer your question, I think I still would pick Sleeping Gods over Bullet Heart for Game of the Year because I do think it is the game of the year. I think that it might not be my favorite game from last year, but I think it's by far away the best game from last year. I think it just does everything exceedingly well. I think that Bullet, it might be a little bit more niche in likes and tastes, but I think that Sleeping Gods it is perfect. I think it's an amazing game.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's so popular. It's been nominated in how many categories? I think it's going to be a year for Sleeping Gods. Maybe Cascadia is going to do well in a few categories, and also Arc Nova. So I think it's going to be dominated by a couple of games.
I'm so curious to see what's going to take it. Is it going to be Arc Nova or is it going to be Sleeping Gods? I think it's between those two. I really do.
I think you're right. It is going to be between those two, but I cannot see Arc Nova not winning, especially when obviously your your centerpiece for the DiceTower is Tom, and he's a massive fan of Arc Nova. But
you're right.
I don't know. I might be a big fan of Sleeping Gods as well. I'm not sure, but I know he massively advocates Arc Nova.
Now, if I remember correctly, Tom himself does not actually vote on these, so he is not a voice. But as you mentioned, he is a big influence in these.
Yeah, I mean,
in just the discussion in general, in gaming in general. Like if you see that Tom likes something, just the fact that he's played thousands of games means that his opinion has a lot of weight to it. So worth checking out. And I agree with that fully. Like if they enjoy something, I'm going to check it out. I really am.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, can't argue with that. I mean, how many games? He's probably played 10,000 games or something, or maybe not that many. I don't know, something like that. And this is like in his top, what, 2 or 3?
Number one.
Something?
This is number one for him, I think, right now. Yeah.
First time designer. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
That's so awesome. All right, so that's it. That's the video. Those are all of the DiceTower Award nominations for 2021. Thank you so much for being here with us for the discussion. And thank you, Dan, for making time to join us for the stream.
My pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
And thank you so much for everybody that joined us in the comments. Jordan, Mike, and Raf, really appreciate you being here and adding to the discussion. And if you're watching this later, please make sure to leave comments as well. I'd love to hear what you think about these different games. What do you think about these nominations? Which games do you think needed to have been nominated? And out of these choices, which do you think will take home the trophy? I'm so curious to hear your thoughts. Dan, any other final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, not really. I think I covered everything I wanted to during the actual awards. But yeah, thanks for having me along, and I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dan.
And these games.
Sorry, one more time.
Unfortunately, I hadn't played a lot of those games mentioned because I play a lot of old games rather than always the new stuff. So, but there we go.
And that's okay. That's just something that we can look forward to playing in the future. Now we've got some ideas of what we can look forward to. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, everybody. And thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong, y'all.
Bye-bye.